Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to do some router work and eventually the scroll saw on this image of olive oil. This was Popeye's girlfriend, later on becoming his wife, I believe. Now, it's not quite the version that I'm sure Popeye would be used to, but it's the one we're going to do today. And we're going to do most of the routing work. It will literally just be the black lines. You have a lot of options with these kind of projects. One, you could route out all the bigger sections, just leaving that framework there, and then you put your paint inside or your resin. I've done projects where I'm literally just going to move the black lines, and then we'll cut it out on a scroll saw, and then these sections will be raised slightly by 3mm, let's say, and then we will just paint them all separately, and we'll see how it looks at the end. Pieces like this here, where you got the black lines, we'll route out those, and the same with the eyes and the nose. For transferring, for me, I just stick the template down and pop in some nice fresh carbon paper, literally just pop that underneath and draw around it all with a pen. I have seen people where they literally would just glue that to the wood and route out over the top. I did try it the once, it's just too messy for me and it doesn't work. So we've gone over the top with our pen, we've transferred the image. Obviously, that way you could use that template over and over again. And there's our pattern there, as you can see. Now this is recycled pine. I managed to get 13 pieces of this. They were 4 foot by whatever that is, 13 inches across. And I got it for free. But unfortunately, she's a big footed lady, this one. So her foot didn't quite fit on. So I just cut a piece out, wood glued it, and put a couple of temporary screws in. Remember, we are going to cut that out, so that won't affect us at all. And I've also tried to move it around, missing all these knots. There's one just touching there, but I don't think that will be an issue for us. So the idea is to route out all these dark sections. Take a couple of minutes to shade in the areas you want to remove. You may go away, come back, and start routing out these shoulders or the arm. We want those leaving behind. They will be painted towards the end of the project. Now the options with the scroll saw, I personally find it better to, one, you can either cut this all out first, leaving a couple of points of contact, one shoe piece there, maybe a bit on the shoulder, the belly, there and there. So we cut it all out first, but it's still connected to the back of wood. That way, that just gives you a nice bigger surface to come in when you're doing your routing out areas. But I did find, as I've routed out this black line there and that line there on the previous ones, as I've come in my scroll saw, there's obviously 2 different levels. That line would 3mm less than that, and it was just awkward to cut. So cut it all out, leaving it connected at certain points. Or the other option, which I'm going to do on this one, I think, you can see I've already done the lines. I will just route out that one line there, and then we can just route off the end of the piece with our router. And if I can just find it, once we've gone around this, just so we have the same distance, I will use the little washing method. So once we've routed all this out, that will be lowered down by 3mm. I'll just come in with a washer and draw around the old piece like so, and that should give us the same distance all the way round. Hopefully, he says. We'll see how it progresses. And that's it. So for routing out, straight in with our CNC bits, these are ideal for me. There is other bits out there, profile bits, liner bits, a lot more expensive than these. If you're just starting out, purchase myself, eBay or Amazon, packet of those. They come in different degrees, 20s, 10s, 15s, and that literally is the angle of the cut there. This is actually a 15. I don't know if you can see that. I personally myself can't tell the difference between a 15, a 20 or a 10. So all our lines with that. And then for clear out, end milling bits, these are fantastic again. They also come with a small shaft on them, a 3.175mm. So if your router takes 1/4 inch bits, shanks, you will need an adapter collet, and that is a 6.35 adapter. Just basically a tube with some slits in. You slot that in there, that had now altered that shaft there up to 1/4 inch. That will now fit your 1/4 inch router. If your router takes 1/2 inch shanks, you'll need obviously the bigger adapter. We'll set it to about 3mm. You can do this. This is all wasted wood, so you can do a couple of samples on there to find out what you want. I just made myself a piece of wood, cut in certain depths. The number 2 there I know is roughly about 3mm because it's level with the bit itself. There is a depth gauges out there you can purchase, but my router will sit on there with the CNC bit in place, and we'll set it to that depth. That one's slightly deeper, or like I say, you can just do a bit on there to what you're comfortable with. So once all them lines are done with the CNC bit, we'll literally come in with our end milling bits and clear out in between. But like I say, when we come to these outer edges, because we've already gone down there with the CNC bit, when we come in with the end milling bits, we can go as rough as we like. We can just feed it off like so, because we will come in with a washer afterwards. These darkened out sections, they will be cut out on the scroll saw. Right, let's pop the CNC bit in, set it to about 3mm maybe, and we will start clearing these out. These smaller areas, the face, the mouth, we will just do that with the CNC bit. And this is recycled pine. Okay, let's start routing this one out. Right, so we've made it all the way around with that little CNC bit there. You'll get a lot more projects out of that. And you can just see, this is a bit powdery, this wood today. Nothing to do with the router bits. It's just, well, it's free wood at end of the day, so we can't complain too much. But you'll see there, it's still quite impacted inside the cut. And you can brush that out or bang it out, whatever you wish. You notice on some of them, I go over with the router and then shoot back again. That's literally because I have a little blower on my router. It runs off a little mini compressor which I control with my foot. In fact, if I just show you now, people do ask questions about it. This is my little router here, and we can see that extra pipe. That's obviously the mains for the electric. And there's a little pipe runs here, flexi. It goes all the way through, and it attaches. You might just see that little piece here. And there's a foot pedal on the floor. When I press it, that's just enough to blow away any dust. So if you see me going over it, then running back again, that is literally just trying to blow the dust out of the gap. Right, we're going to go over it all again now with the end milling bit. These are great. I've used these from day one on 90% of my projects. Same again, eBay or Amazon. I've picked out a small one which will literally just be enough just so it can fit inside these gaps again. You can see there, look, we've routed out nearly up to the line. Never route out on the line itself, so we want to just go in there clean. Basically extend these a bit more. Remember, we've got to get paint into those. And the same all the way around. we're not overly concerned about this outer edge. When we come to clear that out, we're just going to route away into nothing, if that makes sense. Remember, we're going to go around with the washer and cut this all out on a scroll saw. Right, we'll pop that into our adapter again. The same size, 3.175mm. If you're using a Dremel with the router attachment, they will just fit straight into your Dremel, no problem. So we've got that one in there. We'll set it to the same depth. I always like to remove a little section. We've got our little markers down here we could use, put our router on there. Or I remove a little bit, like there. And that's our little gauge to set. Right, pop that in. Basically just go over all this. Just give it a nice general tidy up. Nibble away at these sections here. We maybe just want to be a little bit nearer to the pencil line. Right, so we've made it all the way round with that little end milling bits. There is bigger bits out there, and I've got plenty in the corner of my shed there. But once you get in the zone with those little ones, just a case of nibbling away. Now, obviously, I made work for myself by removing a lot of this outer area, and that is basically just so we can fit the little washer on there onto the surface. Like so. So just enough so we can fit that washer in there. And the idea is we're going to draw all the way around the piece using our little washer as a space bar. That distance there from there to there, that would be the distance of the, we'll call it a backer board, even though it's actually attached to it. Not forgetting to do inside these pieces as well. And then we'll come along with our scroll saw, literally cut it out and then just give it a general tidy up. But so far, if I can just hold it up without knocking anything, everything's still intact. Now, I do have people asking me about these end milling bits, if I can just find out where I put it, and saying, why don't you just go straight in and use those? And I have on a couple of small projects just to see, and I suppose it depends on the wood. But obviously when I was extending this side bit, you can see I've gone straight in with the end milling bit. And you can see basically how rough that is. They're just fluffies, and they will come off easy enough with a bit of sandpaper. But you can see how rough that is. And that's the reason why we always go in with our CNC bits first. Just give you a nice crisp line. And then you put your end milling bits on and then do all your clear out. So it's just the way it is. Normally you would use profile bits or liner bits, and then come in with your spiral up cuts or whatever to remove all that. So CNC bits first, just get a nice crispy line, and then you can use this. But obviously we've come off the edge there, just about for our washer to go inside. So we're literally just going to draw around this now, and then hopefully that will give us a nice little border to cut out. Right, so we've made it all the way round with that little washer there. I can just pick this up, and you can see from that is just enough to give us that little framework. Could have probably gone a little bit more, and if you wanted to, I suppose you could freehand that just as easy. But we've got the same margin border around the full piece. So the next step is basically going to cut this out. Remember, this is just the way I'm doing things today. If you wanted to, and if you had it on decent wood, you could route out all the back of that section there, just leaving yourself a nice frame all around. But for me, we're just going to use the scroll saw and the router, making a nice scrouter project. So we've got some inner cuts. They're obviously sections that we need to cut out and we can't get to, so we want to do pilot hole there, there, and there's one over there. We could have maybe got a little one out the airing there, but it's just so small it's not worth cutting, so we're going to leave that one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's all it is. 5 inner cuts. So we all drilled pilot hole just enough so we can feed the blade into that and then be able to cut that section out. Now for me, regarding scroll saw blades, those that watch my previous videos, I just prefer to use what they call a spiral blade. Now spiral blades, the teeth spiral the full length. Basically it looks like they've got a standard blade and just twisted it round and round, so all the teeth make a nice spiral, as you can see from there. Spiral blade will cut in any direction. We could basically just start here and cut that literally just by moving that wood like so. Not a lot of movement at all. Your other two blades are pinned and pinless, and you will get away with both on this. Pins blades have a pin at both ends. They come on your more standard saws, and with all your blades, be them spiral or straight, they want to feel smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. That way you know your blade's in the right way. And the professional boys, they use pinless blades, no pins on at all, and they just have clamps on your fancy. I think there's two stuck together here. Feels quite thick, does that one? But anyway, and they have a clamp that just clamps it top and bottom. Because of that, we can what I'm going to say, we can use any blade on this one, because the pilot hole you can make it bigger, because obviously you've got to try and get those pins in there. So, but no problem. The only issue you will have with your straight blades is turning the wood, should I say, because you will cut with this. You can start feeding that on your saw coming down, but then you have to turn your piece of wood completely to cut down there, and then you turn it again to cut down there, and then you turn and turn, and there's a lot of turning and twisting. Some excellent people out there can do it. It's just not for me. So personally, spiral blades. Now my saw only takes pin blades, so I've got to use these adapter clamps at the top and bottom, and that's just a simple Allen key. You undo that, slide that off, feed that into your wood, pop that on top and bottom, put it on your saw. They're a little bit of inconvenience sometimes, but they do the job as good as any other blade in my opinion. Right, let's just drill our little holes first. We'll set this on the saw and basically start cutting this one out. Right, so we've fed the Pegas number 3 spiral blade through one of our pilot holes, remember, and we've took up the tension at the back of the saw on mine, so you get that little ping 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 sound. Some of the tension is at the front, mine's at the back. Okay, we're ready to cut all the inner cuts out first, and then we'll let you go around the full piece and cut it all out. We'll start off at normal speed and then we'll speed things up. Right, so we've cut all the way around that with our Pegas number 3 spiral blade, nice and steady. The only thing I do find with this cheaper woods, it's different pieces glued together, so one piece will cut nice and then you might just, I won't say struggle, but the next piece might be a bit not as easy to cut, and then you go through to another section. So with these little joints in there, so be aware of your cheaper woods when they're all glued together like that. So there she is. Where's the legs anyway for now? Now the only thing you'll find with those spiral blades, you do get these little fuzzies on the back, and it's a matter of seconds to sand off. I mean, I've just took that out there, look, and there's none on that section at all. Just on when you've come across the grain where you get those little fuzzies like that, and there they are gone in a matter of seconds. And people say that spiral blades don't give you a smooth cut. I really can't find anything wrong with the actual size of the cutting there on the sides. I've certainly got no issues with that, but spiral blades, they're not for everybody, that is for sure. Right, next stage for this one is just a general tidy up. We'll get rid of our pencil lines that we can still see here, and I will use engraving bits, just cheap again, eBay specials. I have one of my flexi cable, cannot recommend this enough. That just basically fastens to the end of your Dremel, and it's ideal for those that's got small hands. We have a flat piece on the end of there, and I'll go in and just give it a general tidy up, nothing too fantastic. Go over with a mouse sander and a bit of sandpaper just to sort the edges out, and a general tidy up. We'll do all that next, and then we'll be on to painting. Right, that's enough tidying up for me. So we went round with our little engraving bit on the Dremel, and then we use a mouse sander and then good old bit of sandpaper, and we've cleared all the back section there, as you can see, and that's near enough for what we want. Right, now normally at this stage I would come in with my Painter's Touch black paint and basically paint in between all the routed out areas, not forgetting the side walls of course, basically painting the full piece black. And then we will come back with a sander, sand this top again, and hopefully the black paint will be left in all the routed out sections. Now for today I'm going to try something a bit different. I'm actually going to spray it today. It's a matte black. I've been on a couple of YouTube channels and they recommend a matte black for spraying. I have used gloss in the past and it just took a while to really sand it off here to get back to the wood again. So we'll go with a matte black, because obviously at the end of the project I will be spraying it all with varnish, and hopefully that will bring the black back again. I'm hoping it's going to work. This is the first time for me. I will take it outside. It's nice and sunny, but it is fair windy, so we will see. So basically we'll just spray it all and all those side sections, just bits at a time. Don't want to get too carried away. No primer underneath, just straight for it, and hopefully hopefully this will do the trick. Okay, I'll take this outside and then finish it off. Right, we've sprayed the full piece black. To be honest, I think I still prefer the brush and paint method, just to get into these smaller areas. But it's on now. Hopefully when the gloss varnish goes on top, it'll obviously shine it up a bit more. So the next stage now is literally just to remove this top section back to the bare wood, so we can come with our acrylic paints or Painter's Touch. Let's see how this actually sands off. Right, that took some removing. Like I said previously, I do prefer to brush the black on, so basically you're just brushing it into the lines, and yes, you do get a bit of overflow, let's call it, but it's certainly a lot easier to sand off. Now spraying has its advantages, as you can get inside all these with the spray, and it's worked fine, it's done the job, but sanding it off afterwards, that was a bit of a backbreaker. The mouse sander didn't even touch the sides. I've had to come in with the Bosch sander there with a 60 grit on just to clear the paint, and then I went on with a 240 grit just to smooth things down again, and it's worked. And obviously we've got, I say obviously, there's no bleeding or anything, but that is a matte finish, so I've said it twice already. Hopefully when we come in with the spray varnish, it'll just shine things up. You know I like a glossy finish on my projects. Right, so lesson learnt. It's done the job, but it was certainly harder work. Now painting wise, I would normally come in with my painter's touch, but we have a nice set of acrylics to use, so we'll give her a nice outfit, get her painted up well with just acrylic paints. This is an indoor piece, so for outdoors I would certainly use the painter's touch. Right, there's all our painting done. The only thing with acrylics, you will have to go over it a couple of times just to cover nice, and some colours are better than others. I've got a slight mark here, and I've gone over that 4 or 5 times, and it's just not covering. I'm going to call it a day on that one, but everything else you can see is fine. Now the actual skin tone, I've left that as it is. That's just bare wood at the moment. I did mix up some lighter colours, but it was too pink, then it was too white, then it was too brown. So in the end I thought, that's going to be near enough what we want, and we're just going to leave it bare and literally just spray a bit of varnish over the top. Right, let's go down to the shed, spray our varnish on, and this little project will be finished. Right, so we're down in the shed. The last piece for me now. Now personally, I just like a nice shiny finish. If you're quite happy with a matte finish like that, then this project would basically be over. Remember, we've not put anything on the skin of our olive here, so the varnish will darken it down slightly. So just case of spraying now. Normally I've been using the 151. I have no preference, but that's about empty. So this morning it's Paint Factory gloss varnish, and we're just going to start off in here. It's a glorious sunny day today, so we will go outside, and hopefully this will just darken it all down, the wood as well, as you can see from there. And I will do this 3 or 4 times, not forgetting all those side walls. Remember, we sprayed a matte black on the side section for the back itself, so for my own personal preference, I just want to see if this varnish will make it a bit more shiny. But you can see there, look how the face is starting to go darker now, so we definitely need anything on. Right, let's do the rest outside, and then we'll come back in a minute. Right, that's it. This little project is finished. So we gave it 3 or 4 coats of that Painter's Factory varnish spray. You can just see that's just enough to give it a finish, and also on the sides there, look, there's a little bit on the sides. For me, that just finishes the project off, but that is a personal preference. So that's it. So it's olive oil. She measures in at 24 inches by 14 inches across. We routed it out on recycled wood. That was our wood to start off with, and it's over half an inch thick is that. So we had plenty of nice thickness to it. That allowed us to route it out, and for routing out purposes, we did all our lines first, remember, with the CNC bits. That's just my choice of bits. There's definitely different bits out there, but it's up to you to decide what makes and what works for you. And then we come in with the end milling bits there. They're fantastic for clearing out. And then we use the washer method just to draw around that little barrier all the way around, the backer should we call it. And then we came with a Pegas number 3 spiral blade just to cut that out and cut it out, and it cut out no problem whatsoever. And then we came with our acrylic paints. First of all, just before that, I've just seen it there, we sprayed on a black matte for the back piece, and then we came in with acrylic paints, and then to finish it off, some nice Paint Factory gloss varnish. And that's it. This little project is finished. It was the first time for me using the spray black for the backer section. I'll know for next time to use a 60 grit just to clear it. That 120 was going nowhere on the mouse sander. So we've learned there. And also, some woods paint better with acrylics than others. I did have trouble with the blue here, but the rest of the other colours, they're near enough for me. And that's it. This little project is finished. And for hanging purposes, I've not done anything yet, but I will find a centre balance and put a hook on there. You might even get away with a pin nail. You might be able to hang it from maybe just inside the neck here or something, you know, without damaging it. But that's it. Olive oil, routed out on recycled wood, cut out with a Pegas number 3 spiral blade, and painted with acrylic paint and a bit of varnish just to finish it off. Thank you very much for watching.